Well, guys, we're gathered here today to talk about a serious topic in the world of the Carolina Panthers. Hi, this is Mike Kaye, Panthers beat reporter. I'm here with Alex Zietlow, fellow Panthers beat reporter. On a somber note, we're here to talk about a plague of sorts.
An endemic, some might say an epidemic.
That has hit the Panthers roster for weeks on end.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, for the third time this year, the Panthers have cut a guy who led the team in sacks.
It's just so devastating, man. It's just devastating.
And as you all know, this Processing Blue podcast acknowledges the somber notes that are hit, as well as the highs, which we'll get to later. Alex and I have a pretty stacked show for you, but Charles Harris was cut yesterday to make room for 45th, it feels like, defensive back. I joked on Twitter they have enough cornerbacks for all 8 nights of Hanukkah.
Big time.
But yeah, so first it was Ikuliota, then it was Jaden Peavy. Now it's Charles Harris. The Panthers just don't like when you lead them in sack. So, I mean, prayers up to A'Shawn Robinson, the current sack leader with 3. You got Jadeveon Clowney nipping at his heels at 2.5, and then DJ Wadham, who's averaging a sack a game. I mean, like, just keep them in your thoughts, guys.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Wait, but Mike, I think this might be helpful to explain why the Panthers actually cut Charles Harris. So could you shed some light on that? We joke, but there was rationale.
Yeah, there was rationale. Charles Harris was a nice rotational pass rusher. He didn't play special teams. So when you have one role and you're kind of one note, when all these guys are coming back, DJ Wadham's playing heavy snaps. Jadeveon Clowney was kept over the trade deadline, and he is playing very well. Cam Gill is a guy who is a standout on special teams and is actually playing a lot on defense. DJ Johnson, who's dealing with a concussion, is probably going to be back soon. Amari Barno, one of the big news stories of last week, he had his 21-day practice window activated. They had Kenny Dyson up from the practice squad, the vacuum. He's the 3rd player in the history of Bryant University, which is somewhere in the New England area, to play in the NFL.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, just a touching story. And Thomas Incoom's a special teams guy that they really seem to dig. I think Charles Harris is getting waived at the right time for him. The Philadelphia Eagles have just suffered back-to-back injuries. They play the Panthers in a couple of weeks, so there's some logic in potentially claiming him off waivers. That might have happened by the time you were listening to this show. If so, just know that we are recording this on a Tuesday before the waiver wire closes, so that could potentially be news. But anyway, let's get uppity now. Let's
yeah. Hey, how about this, Mike? Let's get fired up and talk about another loss. The Panthers lost to the Chiefs this past week, which did kind of feel more like a win than a loss in many ways. Let's just recap it real quick. The Chiefs scored in their first 5 drives. Panthers moved the ball well all game, but early on settled for field goals instead of punching in touchdowns. Then comes late in the fourth quarter. The Panthers are down 11 with about 5 minutes to go. They come back all the way. The defense forces back-to-back punts. Eddie Pinheiro kicks in a field goal. On that second punt, that final Panthers possession, they drive all the way down the field. Chuba Hubbard punches it in for the touchdown, and then the next play, which wasn't exactly the next play because there was, on the first 2-point conversion try, Bryce Young threw up a deep, like a jump ball to David Moore. That ends up being a pass interference call. They end up getting the ball at the 1. And then Dave Canales does what he should have done all along, give the ball to Chuba Hubbard, run right behind Robert Hunt. Touchdown, game tied at 27. Then there was a little too much time on the clock. Pat Mahomes does what Pat Mahomes does, gets the Chiefs in field goal range. They knock it in with time expiring. The final score, 30-27. Mike, I have one bit of analysis after this, but I want to get to your thoughts first. What are your first thoughts after this game? Well, not first thoughts. We've had a couple days to digest this. But what are your thoughts after this game?
Bryce Young's pocket awareness and confidence are light years ahead of where they were in week 1 and week 2, even in Denver too. And I watched this game with a 1-year-old baby who was yelling, "Bo!" the entire time. So he knows. I mean, game recognizes game, Zach. What do you got for me, Alex?
Why'd you point at Zach right there?
Because game recognizes game.
Oh, okay. Facts. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay, this is the one thing that I wanted to say real quick. I looked this up right before doing this podcast because I wanted to see how the confidence of a close loss to the Chiefs impacts a team going forward, because that's all we talked about on Monday was how there are no moral victories in the NFL, but here are all the ways the Panthers progressed. So I wanted to see like if a close loss to the Chiefs actually does imbue some confidence. I got there to mixed results. Okay, so the Chiefs beat the Ravens by 1 score. The Ravens were already going to be good. The Ravens started out 0-1, and now they're 8-4, one of the best teams in the league. Then came the Bengals. The Bengals lost by 1 point, I believe, and they started out 0-2, and now they're 4-7, so that one doesn't really count. However, the next couple matchups kind of show a trend. Falcons started 1-2. They lost close to the Chiefs, and then they reeled off 5 of their next 6. The Chargers started 2-2 after the KC game, and then they reeled off 5 of their next 6, just like the Falcons. Saints game doesn't count. That was a 13-point loss. 49ers game doesn't count. That was a 10-point loss. Then you got the Las Vegas Raiders. They kind of somehow kept the Chiefs game close. They're a mess. They haven't played well the rest of the season. Tampa Bay Bucs are 1-1 since the Chiefs game. The Broncos are 2-0 since the Chiefs game, and they've crushed the Falcons. They've crushed the Raiders. The Bills had a bye after beating the Chiefs last week. And so when you kind of take all that data, it's interesting, or at least it's worth considering. Okay, I mean, there's a track record of teams playing well after coming close to beating the Chiefs. I wonder if this confidence will kind of springboard the Panthers through the rest of this season. That's kind of all I was gonna say. I mean, we heard about it so often. Like Bryce Young, his entire emotional post-game speech was like, guys, this shouldn't be surprising. This is who we are. And that's like the gift that playing the Chiefs close is for the rest of the season. That's all I was going to say. Mike, what do you think about that analysis, first of all? Do you think that's compelling at all?
So I think belief is the first step in confidence, right? And I think when you tie the game the way they did, and then, they gave Patrick Mahomes too much time, they had the opportunity to give Patrick Mahomes too much time, right? And so I think when you trade field goals for touchdowns with the Chiefs, you're going to lose. Even if you tie the game, you're already trying to climb out of a hole, right? There's only so many opportunities. But what I think of when I think of this game is I kind of think about some of the games that the Lions played in their first year with Dan Campbell, where they were kind of middling. There was a game against Buffalo where they lost similarly at the buzzer, 28-25. And I think we saw like belief. It's like when you get that central buy-in. I wrote my case take this morning about how players are rewarding Dave Canales' enthusiasm and optimism with fight.
Good story.
And I think nice of you to say.
Yeah. That's good.
So that's an internal bit that we got. But I think there's one thing in believing in what your head coach is saying. There's another thing in seeing it put into action. And I think that furthers the belief. Now, they went 2-1 in this 3-game stretch. November was a relatively bountiful month for the Panthers. The vibes are good. I mean, if Zach and I are big baseball fans, we know how important vibes are to a sports team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I know you've got some White Sox lineage, so vibes are really not.
Appreciate you bringing that up.
Well,
what is this?
There are reports that my favorite player is literally going to be traded to your dad's favorite team, and I'm genuinely upset.
That'd be pretty dope. Wait, who is it? Is it Bone?
Yeah.
Oh my, dude, you're gonna be in shambles.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough. Although his first rehab assignment, it would be here probably, right? Like with the Knights.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So Zach,
that would be
have
cool
to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you know that the only guy to hit 2 home runs off of Garrett Crochet in the same game is Alec Boehm? And I was at that game. But anyway,
let's not get too sidetracked.
But trade him and Justin Crawford. Hey, whatever. Anyway, that's for another process. That's more of processing red. But what I would say is this: I have been very critical of Dave Canales. I've also been slow to be receptive to his approach, mainly because I have covered coaches very similar to his approach in Nick Sirianni and Gus Bradley to mixed results. I get it now. I kind of get it now. I think his ability to, while he hasn't always been consistent in his messaging publicly, based on who I've talked to in the organization, based on all the information gathering I've done over the last month or so, he is as consistent of a message man as it gets. And I think when you're the same guy every day, it's very easy to buy into that. I think that's one of the reasons why you and I are so close and why you keep me so grounded is that you are the same guy every single day, even when I'm mocking you for headline.
Oh, I cannot believe you found a way to do this.
Anyway,
I cannot believe it.
Anyway, that's where, again, that's processing observer.
Mike is a master at his craft. Anyway.
But what I would say is, I get what Canales is doing. And one thing that we noted last week is his consistency in not being convicted on Bryce Young.
Yep.
I think the challenge to Bryce Young of not being the guy, having to earn it, has really helped him. But he's also been able to process behind not only the line of scrimmage, but behind the scenes. And I think that that's been evident. His ability to play against the blitz has been extremely improved. I think, sorry, I had a bit of a computer issue there. I think his ability to make downfield throws has been apparent.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
He made some throws against the Chiefs that were legitimately wow-worthy. And listen,
the one to Xavier get along the sideline, I mean, good Lord. I mean, he dropped it, but good Lord, it doesn't get much better.
Yeah. And Leggett playing the exposition for the first time, like, there were going to be growing pains, but I think that was the right move as well. I think Adam Thielen showing some chippiness.
Yeah.
I've got a theory, okay?
Hit me.
Since the Denver game, when J.C. Horn kind of went at it with Sean Payton and was like, we're not going to take this crap sort of stuff, that's when the pendulum kind of swung. I think other people saw that, like, no, we're not going to go silent into the night. Like, this is a team that feels like they can compete, even when they're not competing. And I think you've seen kind of a bravado switch, like against New Orleans, beating the division foe, then going and beating the Giants in a big game for the league and for the Panthers and their legacy, their new home field advantage of Munich. Shout outs to FC Bayern.
You said that with a country accent.
I did. I'm trying to. They're actually playing right now, or at 2:00, and I'm upset that
you are not gonna go and watch that.
Oh yeah, I am. Oh, here, Paramount Plus, babe.
You're really doing that? Okay, good for.
We're trying to get those sponsorship deals. Anyway, but Zach said yes. But what I would say is, I think you're seeing a fight from this team in that, one, they feel comfortable with the backing of their head coach despite their record. They feel comfortable with the quarterback play. By the way, when the quarterbacks have played well, they have won.
Yep.
That is like it. When the defense has held a team to below 23 points or 22 points or less, they've won. And I think they have a blueprint.
Outside of the Chiefs game, obviously.
Well, no, the Chiefs scored 30.
Oh, yes. Sorry,
Yeah,
my bad. Yeah.
No, I know that was confusing the way I worded it. The point is, Alex, I think that this team has a recipe for success. It's ride the Chuba train. It's allow Bryce to have time in the pocket, which the offensive line has done a really good job. I was on Pro Football Focus earlier today. They have 5 guys who are ranked in the top 20 in pass pro, and then they have 3 guys who are in the top 20 at their positions in run blocking.
That's remarkable.
That is really good. And you know what's interesting? The 5 guys that are in the pass pro are not the 3 guys in the run blocking. So you're getting contributions from guys in different areas. Not everybody's going to be good at both. That's very clear. Not everybody's Lane Johnson. That's just not a thing, right? Not everybody's Trent Williams. But I think what you have here is an offensive line that is delivering. We also saw the pass rush kind of come alive in this past game. DJ Wanham is a game wrecker. I'm sorry.
DJ's a beast, yeah.
He's in 2 games, he's blown away my expectations for a 17-game season. Like, he has played so very well, and you see the difference, and it's allowing Jadeveon Clowney to operate.
Yep.
I know we're kind of this is a longer segment, but like, there's a recipe to win here. And I think, we're going to have a segment coming up where we pick the remaining 6 games. I feel pretty confident that this team can compete with everybody but Philly. I mean, in this stretch of games, I mean,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
like, they can keep it competitive, and so, like, I think Saquon Barkley is going to run for like 200 yards, against this team, and it's going to be a blowout. But that said, 2 matchups against Tampa, 1 matchup against Atlanta. The Dallas Cowboys and Jonathan Mingo look awful despite their win against Washington because Cliff Kingsbury apparently turns into a pumpkin in mid-November. The vibes are good, and I think they're tangible.
Before we get to the predicting the final 6 games, because that's a segment that I'm looking forward to, let's just spend maybe 2 minutes on Bryce Young and how he played this past week, and I ultimately want to answer the question or come away with some sort of answer of, will he be the quarterback in 2025?
Okay, hit me with it.
I feel like I've been pretty consistent in saying that Bryce would not be the starter in 2025 on this podcast and in my writings and what have you. I'm just going to say it right now. This is the first week where I'm seriously contemplating that the possibility that he will be the quarterback in 2025. The locker room loves him. To use the words of Dave Canales, he's making a statement to all of us. Among them, he's making a statement to Dave. Dave came in his Sunday press conference and was like, yeah, Bryce is going to be the starter. When have we heard that all year this year? We haven't. Bryce is talking to the team in the postgame locker room, like I mentioned earlier. I wrote earlier that he needed 5 wins and to look dangerous out there. And he's doing the latter, and he needs to find 3 more wins in these final through the rest of the season. And I think he has the opportunity to do that. Final point. During the Chiefs game, I was thinking about the Christmas Eve game in the Packers. I was like, okay, this is similar. It's similar times of year, sorta. Bryce looked super dangerous against the Packers, but the difference is that Packers game was a standalone phenomenon. I don't know about you, but when I was watching that game, I was like, what the hell is going on? We didn't see this prior when Bryce Young was out there. And then remember, we didn't see that afterward either. He led 2 shutout, just generated 2 shutout performances and losses afterward that ended with, a Dave Tepper scandal, the GM getting fired, everything kind of blowing up after that. But this Chiefs game, it didn't feel to me that this was a standalone thing. This was a steady progression of Bryce Young feeling more comfortable in the pocket, like you said, showing his personality, taking to Dave Canales' play calling, trusting David more. I mean, there was this. He handled a full-on blitz beautifully by standing in there and throwing the ball before David Moore cut out of his break. I was like, who is this? I was tempted to say, who is this guy? Because that was my reaction in the Green Bay game. But I was like, okay, I've seen that before, at least in spurts, and he kind of put all 4 quarters together for the first time against the Chiefs. So I'm pretty close to thinking that he could be the guy in 2025. Now he has to put performances sort of like this throughout the rest of the season, but I'm closer than I ever have been before, and I was just not expecting to think that. I was thinking, dude, you got to move on from him. He is something's wrong. Something didn't work in Carolina. He is super easy to root for. I've said this several times. He is a great person. He's wonderful to talk to in the media. Comes from a great family. All these things, but I just didn't think it was going to work. Now I think it might. Mike, do you think that's fair, or am I jumping the gun a little bit?
Well, first I want to address a couple of things. One, you and I try to always address when we're wrong or our previous takes because we want to be held accountable.
Yes.
And I think that's something Dave Canales is kind of dealing with, right? He said for weeks that Andy Dalton was their best chance to win.
Yep.
I don't know that he believes that anymore. And it's because you challenged a competitor. Listen, you can be a competitor and not be an athlete. You and I are competitors in a lot of different ways. We like to compete.
I am an athlete, though, but that's a different story.
Okay.
And see me on the basketball court, bro. Well, wait until my ankle gets better.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how's your ankle? We also know about my arm tripping over
A court.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Garden.
Thing that got viral. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, but I think like the best thing you can do for a competitor is tell them no. And I think Bryce Young at some point realized, like, listen, this is feast or famine. This is an opportunity for me. The pressure is off from being the first overall pick at this point. It's now about just proving you can ball, right? And I think maybe, in a way, perhaps that was part of the strategy. It's like he's got to reset. It's not about the first overall pick anymore, right? It's about being. It's something that Jonathan Mingo didn't really get, right? Like Jonathan Mingo was thrown out there. He was a second round pick, overdrafted. He was terrible. By the way, in 3 games with the Cowboys, he has 1 catch for 8 yards.
Yeah, but you're putting bulletin board material from Mingo, bro, in a couple weeks.
Well, hey, before we get into that thing, and I know Zach's getting nervous about how much time we've got. I'm
having so much fun this podcast.
Yeah, this is good. I like when we're in the same room.
Yep.
But like what I would say is being told no. And look, you can say that adversity was his freshman year when he was a backup to Mac Jones. Guess what? The only freshman to really start like right away and actually have a lot of success at Alabama was Jalen Hurts in like the history of Nick Saban. So like, I don't think that that's true adversity. But what I would say is he's not told no a lot. And I think in college, for instance, I was really successful in my broadcasting program. And I came into my first job in television very cocky and thought I knew everything. And I was immediately humbled and then had to show my work ethic because I realized I wasn't as talented as people who had been in the business for a really long time. And so that kind of, and also based on my parents and everything, I really leaned on my work ethic. I was the guy that would do everything. I would edit videos. I would write scripts. I would go get coffee. I would make French fries if you wanted me to. I cut, I chopped, I diced. That's like a really dated reference. Sorry.
It's okay. I still laughed.
I did call Kenny Dyson the vacuum earlier though, so I'd like to. And listen, the cockiness is still there, right? As Zach knows, but I think the perspective of wanting to prove that it's not arrogance is something that's really important. And Bryce has never been arrogant, but I think proving his skill was what was important for him in the saying no.
Yep.
Hey, this guy is better than you. How can you get better? He was challenged to get better. And I think that is something that is really inherent to coaching. And I think I gained a lot of respect for Canales in hindsight because of the way he handled and the way the results were pushed forward, right?
Yep.
So I think the rest of the team can see that. I think they empathize with his journey because we've all been told no at some point in our lives. And I think, Robert Hunt was a guy that wasn't drafted high. He came from a smaller school. He can see that. He saw what happened with Tua. Adam Thielen, undrafted. Jalen Coker, undrafted. Xavier Legette wasn't a star until his final year at South Carolina. Like, guys know what that's like. Brady Christensen's been benched. Cade Mays has been on the Giants practice squad, what seems like a fate worse than death. There's a bunch of stuff going on here, and I think the one thing that you can take out of this is this locker room is stronger and has a lot of dog in them. I was talking to Jalen Hurts, not Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Coker?
Sorry, my brain's like not working. J.C. Horn after the game, and he said, we're always kind of the bad guys because, we're kind of like, if you think we're like a joke or whatever, we're coming in and we're playing a team that has a lot of fans and whatever. And Sam Franklin yelled from the other side of the room. He's like, yeah, we're the bad guys. We don't want anybody jumping on this bandwagon when we're winning. We know we're good. We know what's up. If you don't think we're good, fine, we'll prove it to you. Respect. We'll take your respect. And I think there's like a sense in the locker room of like, okay, the dog days are over now. And it's like, here we go.
That's pretty dope. Oh my God, I could listen to a Sam Franklin and J.C. Horn podcast, dude. I really could.
By the way, J.C. Horn It's his 24th birthday. Shout out. On Tuesday. According to PFF, he leads the league at cornerback in run stops. This is a guy who would play 22 of 51 games coming into this, was an injury risk at seemingly every turn. He has played the entire season and played very well against the run. He has been extremely physical. He also notched his first sack of his career with a Bill Goldberg-like spear on Patrick Mahomes in this game. Jadeveon Clowney said that they'd been working on that pressure for the entire week, and he really liked his technique there. So I say that all to say this team is feeling itself, and I think sometimes a loss in the grand scheme of things can be a huge win, and that's what I think the Chiefs game was.
Yeah, 100%. And for as red as that stadium was, the stadium never got louder than when J.C. Horn notched that sack. That was delirium. Mike, you want to predict the final 6 games real quick?
Let's do this real quick because I want to get to the Bucs. Spoiler alert: I'm picking the Panthers. Because, like you say, your statistics, your analysis, your great finds there just backed up my choice. So let's get to it.
Okay, still. Okay, just real quick, running down the final 6 games. Panthers have the Bucs, then they got the Eagles, then they got the Cowboys, then they got the Cardinals, then they got the Bucs again, and then they end with the Falcons on the road. Mike, you say the Bucs next week is a win. Alex is going to say it is a loss purely because Baker Mayfield's playing great right now. Who you got for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Oh, that's a loss and a half. That's gonna be the one where everybody's kind of like, do they have it? I just don't know how this run game stops Saquon. I really like Saquon Barkley looks like rejuvenated. Like
A.J. Brown called him the best player in the world.
And A.J. Brown is like the scariest wide receiver cover in the entire world. So that's going to really test J.C. Horn's tackling ability. That said, loss. What do you got?
I agree with that, L. Dallas Cowboys, the Mingo revenge game. I really want to, you know how Kendrick Lamar dropped a new album. He has this one part in the song where he just screams, mustard. I hope that like they use that but instead of mustard, they say Mingo. Anyway, the Panthers are going to win.
Yeah, the Panthers are going to win that game. I feel very confident about it. I think they're going to have a season-high sacks in that one. I'm just telling you that will be known as the DJ Wanham game.
Let's go. Not the Jonathan Mingo game, to be clear.
No, Jonathan Mingo's going to have like 2 catches for 16 yards.
We got next the Arizona Cardinals. Man, this one was probably the toughest one. I know that you have some thoughts. I'm gonna say it's an L. Like this is tough because I'm saying all these positive things and I'm saying this progression, but like I think the Cardinals are like sneaky good this year. So I'm gonna take a loss. And let's keep in mind that I have the right week to week to change my answer. This is just how things stand at this moment right now. But I have the Panthers losing to the Cardinals. Mike, what you got?
How political of him.
I just have to.
So I have this theory that in order for Dave Canales in his era to start off the right way, they have to have a signature win. And they have to steal a win, right? Like New Orleans, they were playing poorly. The Giants, they were playing poorly. The Raiders are god-awful.
The offense was playing poorly against the Giants.
Right.
The defense played pretty well. But
so I think they have to play spoiler in one of the last 3 games. I'm going to say they're going to beat the Cardinals at home.
Wow. All right.
I think it'll be tight. I think Kyler Murray is going to be very tough, but I think this is the one where they learn from this Chiefs game and they're able to kind of subdue. They're going to have Kyler Murray try to beat them. And I think if that's the case, you've got a former first overall pick going up against a former first overall pick. I think we both agree that Bryce should be the guy with the baton the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a potential signature win. It's also the last home game of the season.
Big time.
That's my first take, Drake, on that one. So you've got that as a loss.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, before you get into those last 2 games, you have them going.
I have them going LLWL.
Okay, so they're 1-3 in your mind, and I have missed 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
So right then, that would make them 6-9 with me, and then 4-11. 4-11. Sorry, math is not my best subject. Okay, so 4-11 and 6-9 going into the final 2 games.
Yep.
What do you got with Tampa?
The second time they play Tampa, I'm going to assume that the progression continues and that the Bucs don't get better on defense and the Panthers get much better on offense. And I'm going to go with a Panthers dub on the road against the Bucs.
Okay, I've got that as a loss. I think Tampa's going to be like clinging to playoff hopes, and I think that's going to be a tough one.
I think I should have said that earlier. Like, the Bucs are in the middle of a playoff race right now, and I think that they're going to take this game really seriously this coming week. But by the end of the season, I think the Falcons are going to pull away. So that also contributes to me giving the Panthers a Bucs dub, the penultimate game of the season. But yes.
Okay, so Atlanta. We don't know what time that'll take place, but it will be on January 5th. If the Falcons have clinched a playoff berth, I don't see why they would play their guys. But since I said the Buccaneers are going to be clinging to their playoff lives, I think they're going to have to play that last week. And I think Atlanta will close up shop. They're who I said would win the division all along. I'm still very confident in that. And so I'm going to give the Panthers 2 straight L's to end the season, but I think you feel good knowing that you tripled last year's win total. What do you got for this final one?
And I have a similar thought in that I think the Falcons are going to pull away by now, and meaning that they won't be as motivated to win it. And I see the Panthers taking a final win in Atlanta to end 2-0. So we have kind of different thoughts as to how the end of the season is going to go.
But they end up 6-11 and for both of us.
Yeah, they end up 6-11 for both of us. That's fascinating.
So I had them at 6-11 before the season. You had them at 5-12.
Yep.
So you have gained confidence. This is not how I thought they'd get to 6-11. By the way, I thought they would pull off. I thought Washington wouldn't be as good, and I thought they'd have a shot to beat the Bears or the Chargers. They obviously didn't do that. I think what's also fascinating is we came into the season thinking this was going to be a murderer's row at the end of the season. Right? Really, I think it's kind of a lot of middling, and then the Chiefs and the Eagles.
Right. Yeah.
But I think 6-11 is a massive win for this.
Oh yeah.
If they finish 6-11, it's an I even think 5-12 is a pretty good look. You've upped your game by 3 wins, especially if they can turn around the offense and get the offensive numbers up. But in order to start that trend, they have to go face the Bucs.
Yeah.
And
let's go deeper in them. Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a few minutes to get into them. Right now, you've got the numbers. How about you talk about them on offense, and I will talk about them on defense.
Okay. They grade out remarkably well when it comes to their offense. Points per game, 28.1. That's 4th in the league. Yards per game, that's 369.5. That's 7th in the league. They are great on third down. You know that I love a third down conversion percentage rate. 50.37% on third down.
That's wild.
That's crazy. That's 2nd in the league. They can clearly do it on the ground, through the air. That's awesome. And then the final thing that really pops off is their red zone scoring percentage. Every time of the times they're in the red zone, they convert with a touchdown on 69.77% of those times. That's 2nd in the league. These numbers are crazy. I didn't know that they had the juice like that.
Oh, Liam Cohen. He's going to get some head coaching interest if he's not the head coach of the Bucs next year.
Yeah.
If they flame out, I could see him getting the promo. But so what those stats tell us, the defense has to keep them in 3rd and long. They have to keep them out of the red zone. The game's going to be won within the 20s, right?
Yeah.
And so that's going to be very interesting. Now on offense, whole different story.
Yeah. Their defense, Panthers offense opportunity.
Right. So on defense, they rank 29th in the league with 376 yards per game. They are an abysmal passing offense. They're only averaging 255.5 yards per game. Then again, you've seen the Panthers. So, sticks and stones, right? Their run defense is kind of middling. They're allowing 120.7. That's only 10 yards more than the Panthers really average. I expect Chuba Hubbard to eat in this game. Their teams are just crushing them on third down, 43.48%. They're also allowing the 66.6 7% on fourth down.
Mm.
And they're allowing 24.8 points per game. I think the Panthers need to score at least 23 points to win this game.
Mm.
And I think the defense really needs to do that whole 22 point, 23 point
thing that
thing
they
they do.
An important thing to note as well, I meant to talk about this when talking about the offense. Mike Evans, probably an easy first or second ballot Hall of Famer, is back for the Tampa Bay Bucs. He came back after a longer than months-long stint with with some sort of lower leg injury or lower body injury against the Giants when they absolutely crushed them 30-7. He caught 5 passes on 6 targets for 68 yards. I mean, this is him missing over a month of play. I mean, with him in the lineup, their passing offense goes crazy.
And what I would say is, so Dave Canales' audition game for this team last year in Carolina was the best game that I had seen J.C. Horton play in the 3 years against Tampa. He was incredible. I think I forgot what his numbers were. Let me look those up. But he was sensational. And coming off his 24th birthday, playing the run, showing his length. I think he matches up semi-well against Mike Evans just because of the length thing. That's one of the things that corners fail to kind of match up with against him.
Yeah.
The side speed thing. Oh, yeah, here we go. He had 5 tackles and 3 pass breakups and 56 snaps.
That's great.
They lost 9-0. That, you know what I mean? I think this game is going to be a showcase for him. If he plays extremely well, people are going to be banging the drum to get him extended before the 5th-year option, similar to Derek Brown. If he falters the way he did against the Chiefs in coverage, then people are going to be like, he could play on a 5th-year option. But this could be an Emmy tape, Pro Bowl tape thing for him.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've talked about JC a lot, but I think saying that he faltered against the Chiefs is tough. I mean, they did throw a lot. They were calling defensive holdings like crazy, but
But he also gave up 100% of his targets.
Okay.
So it was a tough look. And look, nobody's a bigger advocate of JC Horton than I am.
I know. Yeah.
But realistically, it was a rough look for him. Whether he deserved to get all the blame for that or not, is another thing. He also had 3 stops in the game, which is very impressive, and that sack was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, I think this team has the juice, and when you have the juice, it spills over. That's my new thing, by the way. I'm coining that phrase. And hopefully it does spill over to the rest of the locker room, because this team's been fun to watch the last month.
Yeah.
Which is a far cry from what they were last year. And even, a good portion of the Rule Wilkes deal, too. So,
dude, literally the past couple of weeks I've been like, wait, is this what it's like to cover an NFL team?
Yeah, welcome.
I was like, yo, this is great. I was like, last year I was like, what is this, Mike? How have you stayed in this so long? And now I'm like, okay.
It's great, right? I mean,
yeah, nah, that's great, Mike. We good to outro it out?
Yeah, let's do it. Go.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, as always, for listening to our pontifications on all things Panthers with Mike Kaye and myself and our wonderful producer, Zach Dennis. Please subscribe and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts by searching Processing Blue. And if you watch us on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to get notified whenever new episodes drop. And finally, please be sure to stick to charlotteobserver.com for all your Panthers needs. Stay humble, stay creative, and keep processing.
Zach, that's a wrap.